The Japanese Grand Prix promised so much. Verstappen had pulled off an incredible lap in qualifying that left his competitors speechless. That set up an exciting-looking battle between the defensive Verstappen and the chasing McLarens, who in theory had more performance. With rain scheduled for race day as well, fans were ready for a battle of skill and strategy, but sadly that never played out on track. The teams and drivers were outspoken after the dull race, demanding change to bring more excitement and action to future races. Today, I'll check out the worrying statement from Fred Vasseur and how George Russell has called out Pirelli to do better in the future. So don't go anywhere. Red Bull's Max Verstappen fended off a race-long challenge from the McLarens of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri to win the Japanese Grand Prix. The Dutchman's fourth consecutive victory at Suzuka was his first of the year and moves him to within 1 point of Lando Norris at the head of the Drivers' Championship. Verstappen's drive was cool under what looked like intense pressure, with rarely more than 2 seconds between him and Norris. However, McLaren had feared that the Red Bull would be difficult to pass if Verstappen held the lead at the start, and so it proved. McLaren's pit crew almost managed to make the most of a slow pit stop from the Red Bull team to get Lando out ahead of Max on lap 22 after their one pit stop, but failed, and that was as close as it came for the current championship leader. The incident occupied a whole 1.5 minutes of the official Formula One YouTube channel's 6-minute and 50-second highlights of the race, emphasizing just how little else happened. The rest of the highlights was essentially just the race start, a bit of midfield tussling, and the McLaren radio chatter about whether they should swap the cars and let Oscar have a go at watching Max's rear wing for a few laps or not. There were questions as to why McLaren pitted Piastri first, when it might have made sense to attack Verstappen with Norris making an earlier pit stop, potentially giving the Briton the opportunity to get ahead. McLaren had already radioed Norris for a dummy stop 2 laps earlier, and Norris was within the 1.5 seconds of Verstappen, theoretically just about within range of an undercut, on the lap Piastri was stopped. McLaren said they had to pit Piastri because he was at risk of being undercut by Mercedes' George Russell, who stopped on lap 19 and was quick on his new hard tyres. With how hard overtaking is at Suzuka, McLaren were worried that if Russell got ahead of Piastri, the Aussie may not have been able to get himself back past the Mercedes if he was undercut. Much of the talk during and after the race was about whether McLaren could have tried anything with their strategy to get ahead of Max. Maybe we could have tried more with the strategy, Norris said. We'll discuss that. Could we have gone earlier? Yes, but then you're at risk of safety cars. If you box 3 laps earlier and the safety car comes out, you look stupid. Team boss Andrea Stella said it was unclear whether the undercut would have worked. He said they would review the data, but on Sunday evening he was not prepared to say that this was a race that got away, as McLaren said about their strategy choices at Canada and Silverstone last year. While McLaren were worried about a potential safety car, there was no reason to expect one at any point of the race, and it was just as likely that one happened on lap 15 as it was on lap 25. In retrospect, McLaren could have tried pitting one of their cars much earlier and attempted to cut the gap to Verstappen to less than a pit stop, pulling off the undercut. If Red Bull had responded by pitting Max early, then McLaren could have run the other car longer to build a tyre delta, allowing Norris or Piastri to attack Verstappen with fresher tyres at the end of the race. Who knows if it would have worked, but sometimes trying anything is better than nothing, especially when you know that Max isn't going to make a mistake. In the end, it was a race that really highlighted a growing problem in Formula One, and that is the importance of qualifying over race day performance. The only cars to move position in the top 10 were Isaac Hadjar and Lewis Hamilton, who swapped 7th and 8th place during the race. Ferrari team principal Fred Vasseur believes the current Formula One season is in danger of becoming a qualifying world championship, with overtaking at a premium in the past 2 rounds. But before I dive into the huge problems that come with that, if you're enjoying the video and want to catch all the news and analysis for this weekend's Bahrain Grand Prix, then make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to F1 Reverse. Thanks a lot. So while the wet, dry, wet season opener in Australia was filled with non-stop action, the following 2 rounds have suffered from a lack of overtaking, as the teams have played it safe on one-stop strategies using the hard compound tyre offered by Pirelli. It is a problem that has compounded as the current regulations have been in place. Across 2024, there were 70 fewer overtakes than a year earlier, despite there being 2 extra races. And so far in 2025, All three drivers who qualified on pole position have gone on to win the respective Grand Prix. Piastri and Verstappen proved in the last 2 rounds that if you can get ahead, then staying ahead is relatively easy. The dirty air given off by the leading car reduces the downforce created by any car following. That means the performance of the chasing car drops the closer it gets to the car ahead, making overtaking incredibly difficult. The reduction in downforce also means that tire wear is increased, so if you can't get a pass made when you get close, you're punished for it. So not only is overtaking incredibly difficult, it's also disincentivized. For sure, qualifying is always crucial in the performance, said Ferrari team principal Vasseur. The smaller the gap is between cars, the more true that is, because you're in a group of cars. It's not that you are just one fighting with the guy in front of you. Yes, it will probably be a quali championship. Vasseur wasn't the only person to be disappointed in the race. Carlos Sainz said Suzuka is the new Monaco, an incredibly scathing insult. Leclerc and Albon said it was pretty boring, Lando said it wasn't the most exciting, and Hamilton and Behrman said it was pretty lonely. George Russell made the strongest statement after the race though. He attacked Pirelli, F1's tyre manufacturer, for providing tyres that last too long. Pirelli have a pretty thankless job. When the tyres degrade too quickly, the drivers complain, and now that the tyres don't degrade, the drivers still complain. However, having tyres that don't die off during the race has clearly created a problem, with back-to-back races being dominated by a rather dull one-stop strategy. Despite pushing hard, Russell was one of many drivers that struggled to overtake those ahead, resulting in his 5th-place finish. Russell expressed his frustration, stating, "I was pushing a lot, but I couldn't overtake. I don't think I would have had the pace of the top 3, but I just couldn't make any passes." He highlighted the challenge of the current tyre strategy, calling for Pirelli to consider softer tyre compounds for future races, especially on newly paved surfaces. It's always been an easy one-stop strategy in the last 2 weekends. I think after the resurfacing, Pirelli needs to come up with softer tyres because the hard ones last forever. The argument has always been that if you do a one-stop strategy, you take the risk of losing positions to those who try a two-stop because they'll have fresher tyres, which in theory offers more performance. That is not the case at the moment. The C1 in Japan and the C2 in China, which were the hardest compounds Pirelli brought to each race, just didn't drop in performance over a long stint. In China, for example, those who put on the hard tyres around lap 15 saw their pace increase over the next 40 laps of the Grand Prix, rather than drop off as you would expect. Winner Oscar Piastri was actually lapping roughly 2 seconds a lap faster by the end of his 40-lap stint than he was at the start of it. It is obviously incredible that Pirelli can create a tyre capable of doing that, but as F1 has found time and time again, improving performance doesn't always mean improving racing. As these cars have become more refined and their performance has improved, the quality of the racing has dropped off, and overtakes are becoming rarer and rarer. The tyres improving in quality has compounded that issue. All we can hope is that going forward, Pirelli will choose a less resilient tyre range, increasing the pit stop choices and providing some more depth to strategy on race day. What did you think of the Japanese Grand Prix? Were you disappointed in the action on track? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to support the channel, then make sure to check out f1reverse.com to get yourself some sweet F1 inspired gear. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.